Welcome to another episode of Gully Cricket to Bounce Wicket podcast. Raja is joining me from Gurgaon today, and Manoj is joining me from Bangalore. And of course, I'm your host Srinivas, joining from Chennai. India finally qualified for WTC finals, and we have a lot to discuss on India versus England series. But before we go there, let's just look at other news from cricket world for this week. Yusuf Pathan, as we all know, is a great all-rounder and brother of all-rounder Irfan Pathan, who was part of two World Cup winning teams for India and three IPL trophies, had retired last week. And Vinay Kumar, India fast bowler who has 400 plus Ranji Trophy wickets and who led Karnataka successfully for two consecutive Ranji trophies, has also announced his retirement. We wish both of them happy retirement from our podcast.
And in international news, Australia and New Zealand are playing their T20 international series right now. And there is obviously a lot of interest in amongst Indian fans as well as to how Kyle Jamieson, Jai Richardson, Riley Meredith and Glenn Maxwell will be performing, as they've all been purchased for exorbitant amounts of money, and all eyes are upon them right now. And also another point to be added is international cricket has also come down, begun for the Indian women's cricket team also, who are currently playing South Africa in India right now.
Moving on, as part of road safety awareness, legends from all over the world, they have come together for this great initiative. It's called the Road Safety Series 2021, and it features legends of the game. So it's a great opportunity for all the youngsters and also from the 90s generation to watch their favorite, role models on the television again. So yeah, it features legends like Sachin, Sehwag, KF, Yuvraj from India. So if you're interested, please do watch these on television.
Thank you, Manoj and Raja. And on that note, let's move on to India versus England Test series. Raja, why don't you take us through the fourth and final test between India and England?
Yeah, thanks, Inu. So, as we all discussed it in the previous episode as well, this is a must-win game for India if they had to qualify for the WTC. And all Australian fans would also be looking at England to win this match so that Australia would have a chance to play for the World Championship final. So having that background, a history of playing so poorly in the third test, England went in with the addition of Dan Lawrence in the squad to shore up their batting, as well as including Dom Bess and making James Anderson as the sole pace bowler in the squad. What did you guys think about England's team selection for this particular game?
Raja, personally, I expected England to bounce back after losing the last two tests. But I think they went with the right combination this time with only one pacer and going with three spinners. They had a good chance to level the series, but yeah, if not win this game, but at least show a good fight. But it did not turn out that way. They failed to show the determination, discipline in batting. I personally feel batting was a big failure, though I thought bowling was decent. So what are your thoughts, Sinu?
Yeah, true, Manoj. Actually, I feel sad for them because they actually had only one good spinner. Dom Bess had a very good Sri Lanka series. I don't know what happened when he come to India, but he had a pathetic series. He bowled a lot of full tosses even in the second innings of the first test match in Chennai. And I'm sure for that reason he was not picked for second and third test. And coming into fourth test, they had no other option, but they had to pick Dom Bess also. And I think he was the biggest disappointment for them in this series.
If you look at Dom Bess as defend his performance a little bit, I think it's also a little tough for him because he did decently, I think, in the first test, and he was immediately dropped in favor of
First innings, first test, he did well, like you mentioned, but I don't know what happened from the second innings.
Correct. But again, he was immediately replaced by Moeen Ali, and they let Moeen Ali go. That's a whole other discussion.
Right.
But having if they had Moeen Ali for the last two tests, it would have been even more competitive, I feel.
True. The batting display that they have put, like what Manoj has mentioned, I think it's pathetic. Winning the toss and scoring only 200. I think first day the pitch was also quite decent. They definitely would have scored another 100 runs, if not more. What do you think about it, Raja?
They've been facing, I think, more than the demons in the pitch. They have demons in their mind. That could be said again when Akshar came into ball. and he took a ball in the first over again through a straight ball which went in through the gate. So again, the balls weren't doing too much, and there was enough pace and carry for both Ishant and Siraj as well. So it was more of a traditional first day pitch in India. But having said that, I think there. There was a comment that I read on ESPN Cricket for commentary that Akshar Patel was staying rent free in England batsmen's minds, because that's how it felt. He's always, whenever he had a ball in his hand, he looked more threatening than he has ever looked, I think, in his entire career, because they were absolutely clueless against him, I felt. Having a pedigreed bowler like Ashwin on the other end did also not help England's cause at all. And again, compounded by their own failures.
True. And I think at one stage, England were 30 for 3. And there comes Bairstow and Stokes' beautiful partnership, right? I think from 30 for 3 to they went 121 for 5, and they had some small little partnerships between them, but I don't think as a team they could not perform the way it is required on Indian pitch. What do you think about it, Manoj?
Yes, assessing the first innings of England, if you see the opening field, obviously Crawley and Sibley, they didn't make big runs. Even the middle order field, if you look at the whole scorecard, there was only 150. This shows that the batting really failed. You cannot really expect the tailenders to do the bulk of scoring, right? And Akshar, I think he's playing. I think the England. He really got into the minds of the England batsmen here. Yeah, along Ashwin too bowled beautifully on this track.
And to add to the England's batting aspect of it, it is the first time they've crossed 200 after the first innings of the first test, and that also through James Anderson playing those like reverse sweeping and trying to do things like that. Yeah,
I
think
the tail got some, I think, around 15-20 runs. Otherwise, they would have got out for 180 or 190.
I think Dan Lawrence from the England batting lineup looked really confident. Unfortunately, he got out one shot of his 50, but 4 shot of his 50. But he looked solid, I would say.
True.
He really did well. I think they have replaced him as additional batting option in the team, right? They have
correct
him as a. I think he did justice in both the innings.
Absolutely, I think throughout, England selections from the second test, I think this was the first instance of their selection doing well, in the batting scheme of things with Dan Lawrence.
The batting.
Correct.
Yeah. So while we talk about England's bowling, let's move on to second innings, which is India's first innings batting. So. Yeah, Shubman Gill got out for a duck again. What do you say about it, Raja?
Those are the kind of dismissals you either get out or you just survive. In the first over, I think you're not really, your feet are not really moving that well. And that is how I think he got stuck on the crease and it just hit him and he was adjudged LBW. But again, it's James Anderson is a legend in his own right, and that was a good ball. And I don't think Shubman could do much.
True, but I think he played well in Chennai. I think apart from that first match, I don't see a big innings coming from Gill. So
correct.
Let's just say that he had a bad day at office. I really feel.
So obviously a lot of people started jumping in and saying Mayank and KL Rahul are warming up the bench, and if Gill is not performing, we have to replace him. I'm sure. To me, it is very soon to say that. What do you guys think?
Absolutely, I agree. He did a great job back in Australia, and I think it's just too early. But if you look at India's batting lineup in itself, in the top 5-6, except for Rohit, nobody, and Kohli having a couple of decent outings. Yeah. Nobody else did much. Right, I think it's a little too harsh on Shubman Gill currently, because he has come off a good performance, and I think he is someone that India should invest in for the future.
So let's move on to the further Indian batting, and Rohit, as usual, like he did he did from the last two tests. He played a beautiful innings of 49, and this time he played it very carefully. Definitely, the period in which the Rohit has batted, pitch has done something. Like there was something happening on the pitch. Ball was moving, and then spinners were dominating. And yeah, I think he played a very instrumental innings there, scoring 49. Though it, if you look at scorecard, it may not reflect what he has done, but
Correct.
definitely the period at which he was batting was quite difficult to bat on. What do you think about it, Manoj?
Rohit was solid in his 49. Fortunate that he got out one shot of his 50. But yeah, it was a great ball. If you look at the ball that he got him out, it came in sharply. Nothing much that he could do. I mean, a guy playing on 49, he will play shots. He could have defended it. On the hindsight, we can say that. But yeah, great ball. Unfortunate to see Pujara not getting the start and not going on. Even Kohli's ball, if you see, was a almost
Yeah,
unplayable ball. You had to nick it, right?
there was some uneven bounce that we could see in that ball, right? Kohli himself was very much
Yeah.
surprised.
And a word on Ben Stokes, such a superman, man. Like he was the top scorer in the first innings for England. He's made the solitary 50, and then he started to open the bowling with Jimmy Anderson, and the reason why Rohit played a very uncharacteristic innings was also because Ben Stokes didn't let up the pressure. You know that Jimmy Anderson was at the end of first day's play, he bowled 5 straight maidens, right, for no runs.
Right.
And on the other hand, Ben Stokes was bowling beautifully, and there were news coming in that going into this test match, he had some kind of a stomach bug or something,
Yeah,
and he
he was
wasn't
not
100%.
actually.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. And despite that, England compounding their issues by not having another pace bowler, they had by investing in their batting, it meant that he had to bowl a lot more than he has done throughout this particular series. I don't remember an innings where he has bowled 27 or more than even 20 overs until this particular innings, and he's done that beautifully, taking out Rohit, taking out Kohli. Amazing.
True, Raja. Even in fact, I heard Michael Vaughan saying Ben Stokes is not human.
I agree. And he was also keeping, he was feeling on this in the slip cordon throughout. That means that he had to be, on.
Into all the time.
Yeah. Insane. Like he was either on the field or in the slips, and he batted the most number of deliveries for England, and insane. It was Ben Stokes trying his best to try to make England competitive in this test match, and unfortunate that it didn't work out.
So at one stage, India were like 146 for 6. So what were you thinking, Manoj? At that time, how much do you think India will end up?
I really thought they would, maybe wind up making 300 or something. Because if not for Pant and Sundar, we didn't have many batters left. So credit to the way Pant has played. I mean, amazing. Hats off to his guts. Just a word on Rahane, guys. I mean, again, a soft dismissal. Even in the second innings, didn't make big runs. Do you think he's under a little bit of pressure? Because we have KL Rahul and others on the bench waiting.
I don't think he'll be under pressure for place in team because, in fact, I think after the first test, Kohli himself has made it clear that Rahane is one of the pillars of our, batting unit, and I don't think he'll have that in that mind. But for the place in the team, but I am sure he must be, contemplating about his performance in this series because we haven't seen the, usual Rahane. But in India, always I think this is the way he plays. He doesn't get usually very big scores in India, but I'm sure there is some contemplation to be done on his batting. What do you think about it, Raja?
I think they'll all be mighty disappointed, Rahane and as well as Pujara. They having played all 4 tests and ending up with Pujara made 130 runs in 6 innings, and Rahane made 112 in 6 innings. With averages of 22 and Rahane averaging under 20. I don't know when that has happened in a home series. They will be really disappointed, I feel, because this could have been an opportunity for them to dominate and put England on the back foot So unfortunate that it didn't happen, and India were fortunate that the lower order batting did extremely well this particular series.
Yeah, whenever the situation arises, Pant has rescued us on few matches. Ashwin played well, Sundar played well, and even
Correct.
Akshar came in for this match. Yeah, if not for these lower order batsmen, definitely India would have been in bigger trouble because of failures of Rahane and Pujara.
I
Correct.
personally think Sundar has done great justice to his selection, because we've heard that we've heard from Kohli that he was picked more as a batsman, but he could come in handy with a couple of wickets, and that's what he did exactly. He scored 96, picked up a couple of wickets. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, definitely Sundar did justice for his selection into the team, and I'm sure, and everyone is writing on the internet that very soon Sundar is going to become, pure batsman for India in long term. Definitely, maybe Vihari fails someday, he might replace Vihari also. What do you
Yeah,
think about it, Raja?
he's got the game, no doubt. Washington Sundar has the game to play even higher up the order, no doubt. I think he's a serious talent, and the way that he was playing in the last two series, just for that instance, he's played the likes of Cummings, Hazelwood, Stark, and now Anderson and Ben Stokes, and these are all high quality international bowlers, and he wasn't phased by them. And if you look at a contrasting situation in terms of English batsmen who are coming through the ranks and they want to cement a place in the English 11, like your Sibleys, Crawleys, and Lawrence and Ollie Pope. They looked out of sorts, right? They felt that kind of ease or wasn't there. That there would be a clear contrast between what Sundar looked like and what the English cricketers looked like. And he seems fit for the part. I have huge hopes for him. He's just 21. And opportunities will come for him. Unfortunate that he's missed out on a very well-deserved 100. And
For
he just
second time, right? He ran out of
correct.
partners. Yeah, I think going back to the stage when India were 146 for 6, I think the way Pant and Sundar has played was amazing. I don't think you'll see that in near future from any other player. They were just 23 and 21. And in fact, both of them played together in Under 19 World Cup.
And also, they were the GABA partnership, right?
It was amazing the way they took the match. I was just watching the match and I was only expecting these two not to get out till we cross the England score. And once we crossed the score, I think around the same time, they were scoring very slowly actually. From 140, the lead, England lead went down to 20, 30, 15. And all of a sudden, at one stage, maybe within 10 or 15 minutes after England took the new ball, lead of India went to suddenly 30, 40. In no time,
Right.
Rishabh Pant has accelerated the innings. Both. In fact,
At
Sundar
both
played
ends, no doubt. Yeah.
I think, in fact, Sundar played some beautiful strokes after England took new ball and Jimmy Anderson and Ben Stokes started bowling. It was amazing. I think Pant scored very, very careful 50. And after that, India has also reached to the place where they are closing in the gap with England score, and then we have seen what Pant has done.
Your point of the new ball was very valid. I think but it was in the first or the second ball, right? Jimmy Anderson took the new ball and
Second new
Pant
ball.
just second ball. He just walked down the pitch and just smashed him for a 4. And the next ball itself, I think that also went to a boundary. This just shows that there was some kind of a planning in his madness. You look at players like Rishabh Pant and you think they just throw their wickets away after something. It's not just thriller minute kind of a cricket that they play. He's played the most mature innings for a youngster that that has come in the recent times. Whether it was calculative defense as the lead was getting closer, and once India took the lead, and he just opened up.
So just a word on Akshar. I'm glad that he made runs this test match. There were some questions asked about his batting. Unfortunate that he got run out. But yeah, this would be a good confidence boost for him going forward.
Definitely, I think there are two defining partnership for the whole match, or you can say the reason why India qualified for the WTC finals. Because at 146 for 6, I was certainly worried that whether India is going to make it into WTC finals or not. Because if they get out quickly, and I'm sure fourth innings batting is not going to be as easy as the first or second innings. So from that stage, I think one partnership is like 113 or 116 between Sundar and Pant, and another 100 runs partnership between Akshar and Sundar. Amazing partnerships these two have been, and these two, if you ask me, these two are the defining moments of the whole match or series, you can say.
Definitely, and I think up and until that point, England would also have had fancied its chances. You know, the Washington was playing in his fourth Test match, and Akshar in his second, and with not a lot of batting that he did in the previous Test, they would have wanted to close out this innings pretty quickly. But credit to them, amazing this thing. And Harsha Bhogle has also been saying that Indian youngsters who are coming through the ranks, they seem ready for this level.
Yeah,
they don't
seem
get
ready
phased
for the
out. Yeah,
highest
yeah, yeah.
level. I think
Yeah.
partly it may be because of the IPL also. What do you say about it, Manoj?
Yes, I think IPL has given a great platform for these young cricketers to express themselves. Playing in front of crowds, playing with already the international cricketers. So you get the exposure, the feel. So that sort of helps these cricketers to do well at the international level. I mean, as soon as they start playing the international cricket.
Yeah, true. I think India ended up the innings with a lead of 150, 160. Yeah, 160. I'm sure England has lost the match there itself. What do you think about it, Raja?
It's not as if the lead itself was too much. I think the
But
energies
do you think
were
England
dripping.
believed in themselves and they thought they'll cross this 160 and give a significant lead to India?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to. I think they've lost belief when Pant and Sundar were batting. I think that's from that moment their shoulders were drooping and they seemed very flat. But even then, they do have the skills, not the skills, but at least the players to get over this lead and at least make India bat for the fourth innings. But
I think we have to give credit to Dom Bess for it, right? He came and he gave us runs whenever we need.
It's a little too come on. It's a little too harsh.
Definitely. I've seen the match, and he came in and he bowled full tosses whenever runs were drying up.
Yeah,
So
I think he
it
was,
was like,
in his bowling.
Yeah. It just shows in how having a person picked for a spinning bowler. He bowled 17 overs, Dom Bess, and Joe Root himself bowled 18. So that tells you that even the captain didn't have that. Captain had to bowl himself to make sure that he covered up for someone like Dom Bess
He gave away runs at 4.2 per over.
in a match where James Anderson was going for 1.8.
Yeah, 1.8, and Joe Root, who is a part-time bowler, was going at 3.1. So I don't think there is much to talk about England's second innings, right? I think it's clinical India's bowling and domination from Akshar Patel and Ravichandran Ashwin.
Yeah, true. So I think if you look at the scorecard, barring 150, there are no real big scores. I think they really lacked application in this kind of wicket. I think some of them were very soft dismissals. So I think they lost their way after India scored 365 in the first.
I think in that innings, more than the contest between India and England, there is a contest going on between Akshar and Ashwin for 5-wicket haul. Yeah, and the match was drawn between them. I think both of them got 5-wicket hauls in that.
Yeah, they were able to pull off five first, both of them.
Well done, both.
And this is supposed to be his 30th 5-wicket haul, if I'm not wrong.
I don't
Ashwin's?
think. I've
Yeah,
stopped
you're
counting.
right. He's
I've
no.
stopped tracking Ashwin's 5-wicket hauls now.
No, he's level with Jimmy Anderson now at 35 fours.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, so I think if you remember last time I made a stat out of it, but I've stopped counting it. We'll see when Ashwin retires.
Hey, and also a little word that I wanted to talk about about the English second innings, and especially coming down to Rishabh Pant's keeping. What a great improvement that he's shown. I especially some I remember looking at the dismissal of Ollie Pope. the ball was turning and bouncing and it almost slipped out and he rode the bounce and held it and just stumped him.
True.
That shows him that I think he's working extremely hard on his
Keeping skills.
keeping. Yeah, and that's a great plus for India going
I
forward.
think, you have brought up a very good point, Raja. So Rishabh Pant has become an integral part of the test team, right? With these two series, you can't rest him, or you can't play with some other batsman or wicket keeper in the current situation. So I think is it time for India to look for alternate to Rishabh Pant, at least when he is injured or when he has to be rested, because he plays all the formats for India. So
For
what do you think?
for test matches.
No, all the formats. No, he plays white
No,
ball
I think
cricket
for
India
white
and
ball,
red
yeah. White
And-
ball, I think KL Rahul is a decent, but he can do, KL Rahul is a good option. He's already doing keeping duties and pretty decently. I
No, I'm
wouldn't say
asking
that,
for.
yeah.
See, because of his workload, do we have to look for alternate keeper batsman for Test match and keep Rishabh Pant as only batting option, or what do you think India will do going ahead with him?
There are a few keeper batsmen that are coming through the ranks. I think Ishan Kishan is very close to an Indian call. I feel he's there and he can always be called up for this thing.
I
Again,
think
he
KS
plays
Bharat
very
is there,
similar
right?
to.
I think KS Bharat is also with traveling with team for quite some time. He is not
Correct,
getting
correct.
the game, and I think he traveled with team for quite some time. But I'm sure.
And he's also a standby for this series, I believe.
Yeah, KS Bharat is a standby for this series.
True. I think for Test we anyway have Saha. We have to see how many years does he have. But yeah, Ishan Kishan would be the next keeper. in my
Talking about positives in this series, I think Akshar had a brilliant series, right? Unfortunately, he couldn't play the first test, and barring that, I think he never allowed us to feel that we are missing Jadeja, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
Absolutely.
And
Also, one word on Rahane's catching. It's improved a lot. Do you guys feel so?
Slip catching, right?
He's taken some.
Very good.
He's taken some great catches.
Really good point there. A lot of dismissals in this particular test were through the edges, and Rahane held on most of them, and it's brilliant. The difference between what happened in the second test and the third test, the third test and the fourth test, where there were a lot of LBWs, right? LBWs and bolds, and the batsmen were this thing. But in this particular test match, there was a lot of emphasis on slip catching and even close-in catching. And Rahane, I don't think he dropped any, if I remember.
I think we are seeing another beautiful slip cordon, right? Like earlier, we used to have Lakshmans and Dravids. Now I think we are
Correct.
seeing Rohit and Rahane coming into that group.
Yeah, that's a great point that you make.
Guys, so another 3-day Test match finish. So what do you guys think? I mean,
I think 3 days only because of the England's batting technique. I don't see there is any other reason why this match has ended on day 3.
Absolutely. No,
True,
I
true.
agree
also
completely.
agree.
Unfortunately, they don't have England fans don't have a pitch or umpiring complaints to do in this match. So even England fans have to admit that lack of application from England's batting.
Absolutely. And a word on umpiring also. I think umpires have done a great job, especially Nitin Menon. Coming off an elite panel, he's been made a part of the elite umpires ICC's panel just before this series. And his first home series, because umpires are no longer no longer umpiring over their home country games. So with that background, he's done a brilliant job. I feel. I think most of his decisions were right, and even there was a comment that I read somewhere that that ICC should look at barring DRS for Nitin Menon's decisions,
Yeah, they were spot on.
because it's just a waste of time. Yeah.
So Ashwin was declared as man of the series, and this is his 8th man of the series. He has joined elite list of Imran Khan, Shane Warne, Richard Headley. Amazing, man. I don't know where he's going to end up when Ashwin is going to hang up his boots, but we are seeing a great all-round performance for Ashwin.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think he can be very proud of himself for what he's done.
There are only two
country.
guys ahead of Ashwin in the most number of Man of the Series awards. One is Kalis and another one is Muralidharan. There is no Indian nearby to Ashwin also. I think Sehwag and Sachin has 5 Man of the Series in their entire career, and Ashwin
And
had 8 so far.
And there's another brilliant stat that I read on Cricinfo saying that Ashwin is the only batsman, only player in fact, to have taken over 30 wickets in a 4 Test series, and also and who's also scored a century. It has only happened 5 times in the history of Test cricket that someone has taken over 30 wickets and also scored a century. All of the other instances were either your 5 match series or your 6 match series, which is incredible. Yeah.
So all in all, I feel England would be pretty disappointed with the way the series had ended, because they started brilliantly by winning the first test, but then ended up on the losing side. So I think there are a couple of takeaways for them. One would be Ben Foakes as batsman, and also Dom Bess as bowler.
Yeah, Dom Bess as bowler, dropping him.
No, I mean to say he was brilliant in the first test, if you remember. I mean,
Yeah, he was
could be
brilliant. To be frank, he was brilliant in first test, and I think he was brilliant in Sri Lanka as well. I'm not sure what happened to him in between. There must be some
Oh.
slight correction he has to do with his bowling technique or something. But
Jack Leach looked very good. That is a plus point, surely. He did his job very well, and he's taken 18 wickets and at a very good average, and he's held at least one end up. He didn't give too many loose deliveries or let Indian batsmen off. And I'm just going through the numbers, and he's bowled the second most number of overs after Ashwin, close to 160 overs in this Test match. So he's been a true workhorse, Jack Leach, and it's a definite positive for England.
he was like a lone spinner for the third and fourth test, right? They have no other options left there. So yeah, he did well in this.
Totally.
As they say, old is gold. Jimmy Anderson has also bowled really well in the series, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
And great control as always, and he made sure that the pressure was always on. Maybe a bit more of support on from another express pace bowler, and having spinners doing well a little better, as you said, with Dom Bess would have helped immensely.
And
Sure.
I'm looking at one more stat for India. So basically, there are 6 times so far in the history of Indian cricket that after losing first match of the series, they won the series. That is one part of it. The second part is 4 times out of the 6 times this has been done by this team, the current team, because it
Oh, wow.
happened from 2015, and Virat Kohli is captain of the team for 4 times out of 6 instances. Amazing. I think what this team has is amazing talent. What do you say about it, Manoj?
Yes, I really feel it's a weird fact, right? I mean, maybe this team needs a defeat in the beginning to really charge them up, energize them.
Yeah, that's
um,
one way of looking at it, definitely.
Yeah, that's my
No,
that's my feeling.
I'm looking at the point where the ability for this team to bounce back.
Yeah, I think they don't get cowed down by the score line, right? Coming in, or reputation of someone they're playing against, and I think that's the kind of belief that Virat Kohli has instilled in this team, which has. I think we have to give credit to him. Whatever they may have. People who have differing opinions on Virat Kohli's captaincy, but he's definitely one of the best players to not only play the game currently, and he's also a good leader. I feel he's the way he's built a core team and have instilling that belief. I think a lot of credit should go to Kohli.
So, Raja, do you think Virat Kohli is the best test captain for India? I think he has the best win-loss ratio for test matches in India. He won more matches than anyone else, and he lost very less matches actually. If I compare Virat Kohli and Dhoni, so both of them captained India for 60 test matches. Out of 60, Dhoni won 27. Under Virat Kohli, team won 36. Under Dhoni, team lost 18 out of 60 matches. And so here 14 out of 60. So overall, if I see win-loss ratio, under Dhoni, India win-loss ratio is 1.5. Under Virat Kohli, it is 2.5. I think I'm sure for many more years Virat Kohli is going to captain team, and by the time he hang up his boots, He's going to be the one of the best test captains ever.
I think he's right up there. It's a little, once we look at comparing eras, it becomes a little complicated because Ganguly, right? He may not have won as many matches as someone like a Dhoni or a Kohli, but he's also playing against, teams like of the likes of the great Australian teams and even the England.
True. It's not
really
always
good.
right to compare across eras, but if you
No,
see
but statistics definitely do prove that in Virat Kohli's captaincy, India has done exceedingly well. And you were just mentioning it offline as well that the number of times India has taken up the Test mace under Kohli is also multiple times, right? How many times?
I think 5
How many
times
times
in
have
a row now India has won the test match.
That's incredible. So that shows that definitely they're the best test team in this current generation, and I think this will only go upwards. And it is a testament, Test cricket that the two best teams are competing for the WTC finals. Because I feel that New Zealand, if I'm not wrong, New Zealand was the number one ranked team before this, correct?
Right. After India won the series, they
Yeah. And to add to that point, New Zealand became the number one ranked team for the first time in their history, apparently. After they defeated Pakistan in January, that was the first time that they took up that mantle. So it's going to be very exciting, and truly the two best teams have reached that point, and very well deserved on both.
And to summarize, India had a great series, and I think it gives them a great momentum to go to WTC finals, even though they had to play a few series in between. And one last point on the series and World WTC finals, Manoj. And IPL schedule has come. So IPL games are going to end by 30th May. And I think on June 18th, the WTC finals is going to get started. So, do you think these 2 or 3 weeks will be sufficient for players to regroup and align their activities and do the quarantines and travel protocols or whatever?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, 2 3 weeks would be. I think some of the players, the travel plans would also be already finalized. So there's no question of regrouping and stuff. I think it should be a problem for the teams to regroup, because if you look at the previous IPL, it finished somewhere in October, if I'm not wrong, right? So
The IPL finished in November 10th. Yeah.
November. So not a lot of time has passed. So should be okay.
And Raja, what do you think about having only one test match as WTC finals? There is an argument going on saying at least they should have 3 matches and best of the 3 should win. So what do you think about it?
I have a lot of issues with the whole scheduling of how the WTC has been laid out over the last 3-4 years. But that's another discussion. I think they've done a lot of. I think people will have a lot of things to say about how the whole scheduling has happened throughout. So there are some teams who have played around say 18 or 19 test matches in the cycle, and some teams have only played around 8 or 9.
And so coming
So,
to the number
I
of
think-
test matches,
Yeah.
India won 12 test matches in the WTC cycle, whereas New Zealand has played only 11, not winning.
Exactly.
They played 11 and India won 12 out of 17. So some part of it is because of the pandemic, and some part of it is because of the rules that has been put for WTC cycles. Because there is no rule from ICC that every team has to play 4 test match series or 5 test match
Or
series.
minimum.
Minimum 2. Minimum is 2, and most of the series New Zealand has played is only 2 or 3, and because
Correct.
of the pandemic they couldn't complete one series, so they ended up playing very few.
I think revenues have a lot of say in terms of how even the scheduling is happening. You even look at India's scheduling, right? Even during the pandemic, say India played Australia for 4 test matches in the midst of a pandemic, and India played England for 4 test matches out of 16 or 17 during the pandemic. So that just says that I think there's a lot of question marks on if revenue is driving the scheduling, and
I think revenue is the only factor that it is driving. I don't see anything else driving there.
Because I think that there should be a certain set of guidelines, because and this is a good opportunity to standardize, not standardize, but bring some context to test series, right? The next cycle, whenever it happens after this particular finals, It could be a 3-year cycle, it could be a 4-year cycle, but I think it should be, there ultimately there aren't a lot, test teams are shrinking. If you look at it objectively, you look at teams like West Indies, Bangladesh, or even Pakistan, or even South Africa to a large extent, they're not the same test teams as they were. So, to build that kind of an interest and to build, that kind of consequence to test cricket, it has to be looked at. I think this is a great opportunity that ICC is letting go, just for the sake of a few marquee series. Marquee series should be there. I mean, we would love to see another. I wouldn't like to see India and Australia play anything less than 3 or 4 matches series right now, because it has become the premier rivalry in Test cricket after the Ashes, or even meeting them, right? So I think they should do a better job in making sure that everyone gets a good opportunity and everyone is playing each other significant numbers. Otherwise, it doesn't. It will just end up being like 3 or 4 teams who are in the contest, and they will looking at finding a place there. Same thing. And to add it to your point of having a multiple series as a final, that why not? I think that would be a great way to finish the cycle.
I think we all have waited 2 years for the WTC cycle to reach the final stage, and concluding finals in one game is criminal, if you ask me.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, so let's move on to T20, guys, between India and England. So Raja, what do you think will be outcome of the T20 series? India and England are going to play 5 matches in the world's biggest cricket stadium. So what do you think will be outcome?
England will be hurting surely, and they would be wanting to play their best cricket, which hasn't happened for the longest time. And infusions of players like Morgan would only add to or add to their strengths. So but I'm leaning towards India to win the series. Maybe I'm looking at maybe 3-2 for India.
Okay, Manoj, so what do you think will be outcome?
I think, looking at the recent performance of England in the Test series, I know that the games will be played in Ahmedabad and there would be some T20 specialists coming in. Having said that, I would give India 80% and 20% chance to England. So it would be 80-20 for me.
Yeah, 4-1?
Yeah, sure.
So I think, if you ask me, I think it is going to be 3-2 in favor of India. I'm not underestimating England's team. They have a very good white ball cricket team. But yeah, being an Indian fan, you can consider this as my hope rather than prediction of what is going to be outcome. So, and let's hope it is going to be a good contest between both the teams, unlike Test series.
Yeah, another point to add here for the T20 series is IPL heroes of the last season like Suryakumar Yadav and Rahul Tewatia are a part of the squad this time. So it will be
definitely
brilliant.
This is going to be a very interesting series.
World T20 scheduled to be held in India. As far as the scheduling is concerned, we only have the IPL, and after that we have the World Test Championship final, and I think there is a series with England in England.
5 Test match series with England.
Yeah. So I think this would be the one of the final stages of finalizing your core group for the World T20 Championship. So I think India would be very concerned on who to take forward with that.
Yeah, very good point, Raja. Yeah.
So I think with this, let's move on to our new latest segment, How's That? Raza, why don't you take us through How's That?
So with our new segment of How's That, we wanted to talk about the unheard, forgotten, unknown, and even strange stories that happen in the world of cricket. With that context, I want to talk about something that used to happen in Indian domestic cricket, which was prior to the establishment of Ranji Trophy. So there was a tournament happening in Bombay during the Bombay presidency age of what we call Mumbai. So it was called the Bombay Pentangular tournament, wherein teams were divided on communal lines. Like Europeans, so the teams, I'm just going to talk about the teams that were playing there. They were the Europeans, they were Parsis, there were Hindus, there were Muslims, and there was a team that comprised the rest. your Christians and Buddhists. They formed the rest team, and the five teams competed in one of in the what was considered to be the marquee tournament of Indian cricket. The history, if we talk about it a little bit, we all know that Englishmen brought cricket to Indian shores, and since the Parsi community was affluent and in tune with European lifestyle, they picked up the game pretty quickly. So Europeans used to play Parsis for a tournament, for a trophy called the Bombay Presidency match, and that was the key fixture for Indian cricket at that time. And that happened in 1870s to 1900s, early 1900s, when the Hindus started forming a team of their own, and they were invited to compete to form the Bombay Triangular Tournament. In early 1910s, the Muslims formed a team called for the Muslims, and it became the Bombay Quadrangular till the 1930s. And then, as I said, the rest team was formed and it became the Bombay Pentangular. Now, to understand the context in which this tournament was happening, this was in the context of the Indian national movement, where leaders were fighting to establish a true Indian identity out of the many diversities that we have, whether it be caste or religion or even communities or even languages and all that. And having the most premier Indian cricket tournament to be something which was divided on communal lines was a huge sore point for a lot of Indian national movement, and there were a lot of calls to stop this particular tournament. And in fact, Mahatma Gandhi he played cricket when he was younger, and he enjoyed it and all that, but he never really intervened. He never had a very voiced opinion on cricketing that was happening in the country at that point, or even interest in sport for that matter. But the first time he made a very strong statement against this particular tournament was against this particular tournament in itself. And I'm reading from an excerpt from a book called Mahatma on the Pitch by Mr. Kaushik Bandyopadhyay, where Mahatma Gandhi said this particular quote. I'm quoting directly from him. He said, "Incidentally, I would like the public of Bombay to revise their sporting code and erase it from communal matches. I can understand matches between colleges and institutions, but I never understood reasons for having a Hindu, Parsi, Muslim and other communal 11s. I should have thought that such unsportsmanlike divisions would be considered taboos in sporting language and sporting manners. Can we not have some field of life which cannot be touched by the communal spirit?" So it was a powerful rebuke to this particular tournament and what it represented. So under growing criticism, so when BCCI took note of this, and during the Quit India movement, BCCI finally stopped this tournament in 1946, and Ranji Trophy became the premier competition for domestic cricket between different regions. And people were, the teams were competing on regional lines rather than communal lines. And this is a certain forgotten part of Indian cricketing history. And Indian cricket is good that it has been, it ended at when it did.
Such a nice story that you have told us, Raja. I don't think many of the listeners also know about this story. Thank you for bringing this story to us. And on that note, let's move on to our next segment, Hero of the Week. So, Raja, you have jinxed last week, right? You said our hero of the week has become an easy job, and players are becoming very obvious that whom we are going to declare. So this week we have 6 or 7 players who did well, starting from Akila Dhananjaya, who took a hat trick in T20. Pollard hit 6 sixes, and Sehwag scored 50 of 20 balls, and Rishabh Pant scoring a century. Sundar scored an amazing 96, and Akshar Patel took 9 wickets and 43 runs.
And Akila Dhananjaya, for that matter, Pollard hit 6 sixes off Akila Dhananjaya.
Yeah, of the very next over after taking hat trick.
Yeah, what life has it's
T20 is a
What a
cruel,
great message.
yeah, I think T20 is a cruel field.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think our hero of the week is Rishabh Pant, definitely. Not because others have performed less. I think the time or how crucial that 100 is for the team. I think we have considered that, and Rishabh Pant is hero of the week.
So what do you think, Manoj?
Yeah, undoubtedly for me, Rishabh Pant as well. If not for him, we would have not got such a big lead and would put England under pressure. So, Rishabh Pant.
Yeah, guys, before we wind up our episode, I think Raja had some frustration on IPL schedule that has been announced few hours back. So Raja, why don't you speak about it?
Okay. So the schedule is just out, and the matches are going to be held from April 9th, right? April 9th to May 30th across 6 different venues. And none of them are in my hometown of Hyderabad, which is very, very surprising, especially when
Or in your second hometown of Punjab also.
it's insane. So I just especially when we have a minister of Telangana openly appealing to BCCI for asking matches in Hyderabad. There were other venues, and Ahmedabad picked up a lot of matches and having no IPL teams. But it's also a little it's a little saddening for Hyderabadi cricket fans to not have live cricket in their backyard.
True, Raja. I think the basic idea behind the whole schedule
Hello?
is no team will have a home game. That's fine, understandable. And all the playoffs have been scheduled in Ahmedabad, understandable. What I could not understand is apart from playoffs, why matches has to be held at Ahmedabad? Because there have been no matches scheduled in Rajasthan, no matches scheduled in Punjab, Andhra Pradesh. At least one venue they would have picked, so at least those fans would have got opportunity to see, if not their home team, some other team to play, right?
There are so they have picked out 6 venues, and even
Yeah,
if
I think
I
they
also have a point with adding another. If they wanted to have a neutral venue, Pune would have been a great option. I always felt that because Mumbai and Pune have such a beautiful connectivity, it could have been similar to what the teams were doing in UAE, where teams were getting on a bus from one location and moving to where the games were held, whether Abu Dhabi or Sharjah or even Dubai, and then coming back to their home base. So that could have been an option where Mumbai and Pune could have solved that kind of a problem.
True. But yeah, when Jaisha is the deciding authority, you and me cannot do anything. So, on that note, let's wind up this episode, guys. Thank you for our listeners for continuously supporting us and listening all our episodes. We are getting amazing response. Thank you once again for that. And whoever want to give your feedback, we have now started a YouTube channel. It's not a video podcast, of course. It's an audio podcast only. You can drop in your comments there, and we're always there to reply. And whoever is listening our podcast through Apple Podcast, you can rate us, comment us there. That's all for the week, guys. Bye bye.